So, we're always told that education is the key to leadership, right? And it sounds great, but it brings up this question that I think a lot of us have felt deep down. If we're so educated, why do we so often feel completely and utterly stuck? Let's get into that. Okay, it all really starts with this powerful idea from Wendell Willkie. And, it makes total sense. Education gives us the tools, the raw materials we need for leadership. But if that's actually true, it leads to a really sharp question.
I mean, why is that?
Why do we have this feeling that we've got all this potential, all this awareness of what's possible, but we're just mysteriously unable to act on it? We can see the path, but taking that first step feels impossible.
This is the big paradox we're going to unpack.
And that brings us right to our first section, what I'm calling the educated paralysis paradox. Now, the problem isn't that our education failed us. Not at all. It's that a real education does something way more radical than just feed us information. It wakes us up to what's actually possible. Think about it this way. Your education shows you that there are 1,000 doors you could open. It literally hands you the keys. But leadership? Well, that's a completely different thing. Leadership is the act of picking a door and having the guts to walk through it, not knowing what's on the other side. And there's a huge, huge gap between knowing and doing. And this right here is what we mean by educated paralysis. It's that feeling of being totally overwhelmed by the very options your education gave you. You see all the possibilities, all the paths you could take, and you just freeze. So why? Why is all this freedom so terrifying? Which leads us to our next big idea, the uncomfortable gift of freedom. Because that one thing education is supposed to give us, freedom of choice, freedom of thought, can sometimes feel less like a gift and a lot more like a heavy burden. And this really breaks down that inner conflict we all feel. See, from the time we're kids, our systems, school, work, they often reward obedience. We learn what you could call the language of constraint. Follow the instructions, give them what they expect. But a real education, it teaches you the grammar of freedom. It shows you that, wait a minute, you can think for yourself. You can do things differently. And suddenly, alternatives are everywhere. And honestly, that can be really unsettling. And here it is. Here's the catch, summed up perfectly by Seth Godin. This is the absolute heart of why we run away from our own freedom. Because the second you accept that you are free to choose, you also have to accept that you are responsible for what happens next. So this is the crucial turning point. Responsibility is the price you pay for power. The moment you admit you have the freedom to act, you lose the right to blame anyone else. You can't blame your boss, the system, your circumstances. It's on you. And that is a heavy, heavy weight to carry. Most of us feel this in our gut. We know when we're in the wrong job or the wrong situation. We know when we're not being used to our full potential. The famous management guru Peter Drucker had this incredible metaphor for this exact feeling. He said it feels like being a great actor in a terrible play. Isn't that perfect? You know you've got talent, you know you have so much more to give, but the script you've been handed is just awful. It's holding you back. It's such a brilliant way to describe that feeling of being stuck. But here's the thing. Drucker doesn't let you off the hook there. He immediately hits you with this incredibly direct, incredibly challenging question. It's not enough to realize you're in a terrible play. The real question, the only question, is what are you going to do about it? Are you just going to keep saying the lines, or are you going to try to rewrite the thing? And this African proverb just drives that point home. Leadership isn't about waiting around for the perfect script to fall in your lap. It's about preparation, and it's about action. Right now, today, in the middle of all the mess and uncertainty. Tomorrow is built by what you do now. Okay, so this all leads us to our next section, the leader's inner toolkit. If we're actually going to step up and act, what do we need? And spoiler alert, it's not really about outside resources. It's about building a set of tools inside ourselves. It really boils down to this 3-step journey. First, you have to know yourself. And get brutally honest about what you're actually trying to do here. Second, you have to trust yourself. Believe that the work you've put in, the preparation, is enough to start moving. And only then, finally, can you truly be yourself and let that authentic self guide your actions. See, if you know what to do but don't trust yourself, you're still paralyzed. This whole arc is where real leadership happens. And you have to realize leadership is kind of a two-sided coin. It's both strategic and deeply human. You absolutely need strategy, the patience to sometimes pull back to create a better angle of attack. But you also need compassion, because at the end of the day, leadership is always about people. And finally, you need discernment, the wisdom to know where your energy is best spent, and just as importantly, what you need to let go of. So where does that confidence to actually act come from? It comes from this. A whopping 75% of winning is just being the best at the basics. It's not about some secret, complicated magic trick. It's about the hard, disciplined daily work of doing the fundamental things better than anyone else. That's the preparation that builds the self-trust you need. Which brings us to our final and maybe most important section. Leadership? It isn't a title somebody gives you. It's not a finish line you cross. It is a choice you make every single day. It's a way of showing up. And that means making a crucial distinction about who you surround yourself with. You don't want to be around the accomplished, the people who think they've already arrived. You want to be with the strivers, the ones who are still reaching, still learning, who are still willing to be humbled by the process. They're the ones who really get what this journey is all about. This is the core mindset of a striver, of a true leader. It's about accepting deep in your bones that today is not going to be perfect. And it's realizing that nobody is going to magically appear and clear a path for you. You have to accept the chaos and move forward anyway. It's really the philosophy baked into this classic old saying. This isn't just about being productive. It's about rejecting the whole someday mentality. Leadership is what you claim in the messy, imperfect actions of today, not in the perfect, polished plans you have for tomorrow. So let's bring this all the way back around to that powerful metaphor. That feeling, being a great actor stuck in a terrible play, that doesn't have to be the end of the story. It really doesn't. That script is not set in stone. The play can absolutely be rewritten. You have that power.
And that leaves us with the final crucial question. Your education gave you the ability to read the script and see all its flaws. But leadership? That's about having the courage to take responsibility, pick up the pen, and start writing a new scene. The choice in the end is yours.